Okay, welcome. If we have not met, I'm Michelle Height. I am a wife. I'm a mom of three. I have a 5-year-old son and twin 2-year-old daughters. And I have an online business where I basically encourage women in faith, fitness, and intentional living. And it has been the greatest, just greatest process to dive into and really get to know women, build relationships. And really what I'm going to share tonight is something that has come out of that. It's something that I've recognized a lot and heard over and over again from women that they struggle in this area, that we all want to be more productive. I don't know anyone who would tell you that they don't want to be more productive. And I think that we also all want to live intentionally, and I hope I'm not speaking for you wrongly there, but that we all desire to be the part of the life the Lord's given us. And so I'm going to go ahead and mute us all here. So that's kind of where this has come from. I'm going to share with you a process, and this is not just a lofty, like something I dreamed up. This is something I've been doing, and it works so well for me. You'll discover as we go through a little bit that I'm a little bit type A, if you didn't already know that about me. But I will tell you that I've seen this process work for people who are totally not type A. So it just is a really, really great thing to get in the habit of doing. It takes literally minutes a day. It has made the biggest difference in my life and in the lives of the women that I've taken through this. So I'm anxious to share it with you. As I mentioned, we're all busy and time flies. And I know for those of us who with little ones, we, you look at it and look back and the time has just flown by. And so again, like I mentioned, the goal to be the best steward of our lives. And I also mentioned that I've seen this repeated over and over again from women that have gone through my fitness groups, is this desire for clarity and focus, for better use of time, for defining what really matters. It doesn't really matter that we're just busy. It matters that we're busy in the right things. It doesn't really matter if we're productive if we're not being productive in the right things. And so one thing that I found over and over again as well is that accountability is such a huge piece of this. And so I want to invite you, as I kind of go through this process, keep me in the loop as you try this out and let me know how it works for you. Allow me to hold you accountable. I would love to check in with you and see how it's going. Another thing that I've heard a lot from women is exhaustion and get this guilt, this mommy guilt of we get to the end of the day and we look back, and although we've done so many things, we couldn't even begin to write them all down, there's always that thing we wish we had had time for. There's always that feeling of guilt, or I shouldn't say always for you. For me, there was for a long time this feeling of, I'm exhausted, but I didn't get to the things I wanted to get to today. And so I, go ahead and mute us all. I just want to share this process with you because it truly, truly, truly has helped me to get rid of that guilt. I will tell you that I can't even remember the last time I ended a day and looked back and thought, oh, I wish I had done more of that, or I wish the day had gone differently, because this truly has changed my focus and what I get done in a day. So kind of dive in. I'm going to give you some really tangible tips that you should be able to take and do tomorrow. So I'm going to walk you through what I do weekly. So each Monday, I sit down with a blank sheet of paper. It's usually in a spiral that I just carry around just to kind of keep all my paper somewhat together. And I just brain dump. And if you're not familiar with that term, brain dump, basically it's just getting everything on paper. One thing that I did for a long time is just allow things to float. I think, oh, I've got to remember to do this and I've got to remember to do that. And I'm also the queen of Post-its and little notes everywhere. And so notes would end up everywhere, and I couldn't keep it all straight, and I was flustered all the time, and I wasn't getting things done that needed to be done. And so this has helped me tremendously. So I sit down with a piece of paper. Again, I mentioned that I'm very type A, and so You can do this however it works for you. I just divide my paper into quadrants, and I start making a list in each one of the things that need to be done. So in one is things that I need to do for my family at home. One, or just things around the house. One is errands I need to run. Another is things I need to do for my business. And I leave the fourth just kind of open for things that pop up that I need to take care of that don't fit in one of the other things. So I just basically get it all out on paper. And if you do nothing else that I talk about tonight, I would highly encourage you to sit down and brain dump. Just to get everything into one place makes such a big difference in the juggling of all that we juggle as women. And so I get it all down. The next thing I do, and I typically do this on Monday mornings. I've tried Sunday nights, and Sunday nights I either get sucked into Netflix or something with the family, or our schedule's just a little off. So Monday morning, first thing, I rise pretty early. So I do my Bible study, my exercise, and then this is what I sit, as soon as I'm done exercising, I sit down and this is what I do. And so I get that brain dump done. The next thing I do, and I'm going to talk a little bit about this toward the end because this is a huge piece of what we'll do in the Intentional Living Academy, and again, I'll share more about that towards the end, is I read my life plan out loud. I cannot tell you the difference that that process has made in my life as far as making sure that I'm not just busy, but I'm busy and productive doing the right things. So I'll share a little bit more about that, but I'm such a nerd. I actually read that out loud. I found for me that reading it out loud just helps me to concentrate. When we read something we're really familiar with over and over again, we kind of get to the point where we don't really have to tune in to what we're reading. And so I found that with scripture too, is if it's a passage I'm really familiar with, I just kind of skim and scan. And I was doing that with my life plan. So now I'm reading it out loud, and it's such a great time to remember, oh, wow, yeah, I said that's something that was really important to me, and I did nothing last week to grow that area. And so it's just a good reminder. So I go ahead and read that just to help me make sure that the next thing that I'm going to do is on target with what really matters. And so the next thing I do is actually fill in appointments for the week. So I use a day designer. There are a million. I've used Erin Condren. I've used, there's a great one similar to its day designer at Target that's awesome. There are a million different planners out there. So I'm not here to sell you on a planner. But I'll tell you, when I started this, for about a year now, I've used these day designer sheets before I ever bought anything. And I'm going to share the link with you over on the side. And don't worry if you don't get it, because I plan to email these out. But there's the link to get the free printable. So when you open it up, basically you give them your email and they email that free printable to you. But basically what I did is I printed that out and just made copies of it. And what I love about this is it helps keep everything in one place. So basically I start going through and filling in my day designer for that day. So like I mentioned, for a year, I just used the clipboard, and I would sit down, make sure my brain dump, everything was there. I would start and I would pick the 3 most important things that I needed to accomplish that day. And let me tell you, this part has gone huge to help take away the guilt, because I do go ahead and pick 3 things that have to be done to move me forward. Very often those are things that are significantly affect my life plan, which I had just read previously before doing this. And so I pull usually off of the brain dump 3 things that I've got to do that day. And they go at the top, and you'll see it says at the top, today's top 3. Again, you could do this on a sheet of paper. It doesn't have to be this, but it's just a free printable that you can go ahead and get if you're interested. So I go ahead and write my 3 things. And my 3 things I try to accomplish as early in the day as I can. If you've ever read the book Eat That Frog by Brian Tracy, the whole concept is if we get the things that we dread doing the most, or that are the most important, done first thing in the day, we're so much more productive as a result. Because otherwise we tend to procrastinate those things, and we never get the things done that really need to get done. So my goal most days is to get those done as quickly as possible and get them crossed off the list. I am also one of those people who will add things to my list just to cross it off, because I love the accomplishment of having run that line through my list. So then I go through the schedule, and it's listed hour by hour on here, and I fill in anything we've got going on that day. And so it might be a doctor's appointment, it might be whatever it is. I just kind of go ahead and fill in anything that's out of the ordinary or that I know has to be done that day. So I fill that in. And I'll show you in today's. I mean, this is what most of my days end up looking like. Like they're just a mess. But I go ahead and I fill in the things that are a little out of the ordinary for that day. The next thing I do, and on the other side of that, I have a to-do list of things I'm going to accomplish that day. So those often come off my brain dump and go onto that page. The next thing I do is I pull out my ideal schedule, and I'm going to share with you the link to that. It's simply a Google Doc, and what I did is I went in and filled in, again, I'm a little type A, so it's color coded, but this is my ideal week. If things went exactly as I wanted them to, this is what would happen. Now, we know that there's no such thing as an ideal week. Like, there's never going to be a week or even a day where things go exactly like I have them on the sheet. But basically what I did is I looked at, if nothing else happened out of the ordinary, what would I want and need to accomplish that day? And so I started filling in first the things that were the non-negotiables. So this is actually my summer ideal schedule, so there's not any work or school stuff. I redid one for the summer just because I knew it would look really different. But during the school year, I've got on there what time I need to have Jay and Kason out the door, what time the girls and I need to leave on the days that I work. So I have everything entered. I've got my work hours entered on the days that I work out of the house. I've got my work hours entered on the days that I work from home. I've got dinner time. I've got anything that happens regularly. So that all goes in my ideal schedule. And basically I get on paper what I'd like my days to look like. Now, why does that matter? Because what I did, and I would highly encourage you to do this, is to make sure that the things that matter most go on the ideal schedule. So I actually, in the Intentional Living Academy, we'll go through the process, and there's quite a bit that leads up to the writing of the life plan. But after we've got that written, those action steps actually go into our ideal week, so that we're transferring the things that really matter, the things that are going to give us that peace and that take away that feeling of guilt at the end of the day, go into the ideal schedule. So for instance, one thing that I added in here when I went through my life planning process is, and this sounds terrible, but reading with my kids. So I hate to admit this because I'm a reading specialist, but I was not spending significant time reading to my kids, and I know how important that was, but the days got busy and it wasn't happening. Another thing that we've really been intentional about this summer is Bible study with the kids. I would have told you that it was my number one priority as a parent to share God's word and his truth with my kids, and the truth of the matter was there wasn't a whole lot other than meal prayers and bedtime prayers that would back that up before I started doing this. So that's something that is in my ideal schedule. Now, again, I won't tell you that we do it every day. We don't. Today, it didn't happen. As far as like a significant Bible study time, but the part that takes the guilt away from me is knowing that most days that's going to be accomplished. And so it didn't happen today, but it'll very likely happen tomorrow. And so I put all of the things that really matter in there. Another example of something that went in my ideal schedule is time with Jay, time to sit and visit with my husband. And it's another thing I would have told you, yes, marriage is so important to us and we highly value it. But when I started going through the life plan process and looking at what am I really doing right now that would show that I value my marriage and that we are working to grow our marriage, I mean, there wasn't a whole lot there. So we sat down as a couple and really talked about, okay, what is it that we need to do to make sure that we are growing together and that we're being very intentional with one another. And what we determined is that we need to spend time talking today. And so, yes, the kids are going to come in and interrupt. Most days we try to do that right when we put them to bed. We'll just sit down and turn the TV down or turn it off and just have a conversation. It's not always a ton of depth, but at least we're connecting. And we weren't doing that before. So that's another thing that I've added in my ideal schedule. So when I go to transfer my ideal schedule to that day, that ends up on there most days. So again, let me kind of back up. So I start number one with my brain dump. I just get everything on paper. And one thing I failed to mention, I'll go ahead and look at just at the week ahead as I'm doing that, especially for errands, because I'm really bad about getting out to run errands, and then I get home and realize, ooh, Johnny has a birthday party at the end of the week, and I didn't buy a gift, and now I have to get out again. So I'll kind of glance ahead at the week schedule and see if there's anything that needs to be on that brain dump. So after I get the brain dump done, I go to Monday. I fill in any appointments, anything that is happening that week, and I just kind of get all those important, out of the ordinary things. And then what I do from there is I take this and I pretty much copy it onto the day. So I end up with this very messy, plan for the day, and it's my plan. And I don't beat myself up if I don't stick to it totally, and I don't beat myself up if I miss some things. But it is, I mentioned, I love to cross stuff off. As we get it done, I cross it off. It stays on my kitchen counter all day. And when I cross it off, I'll look at, oh yeah, I need to get that done, and I go and do it, and can move on. So the ideal schedule never happens exactly, but most days I do get most of those things done and copied down onto that day. So questions, if you have any questions, I want to invite you to add those in the comment box. I'd be happy to answer those. Just as we're talking through this, I mentioned that I came up with an ideal schedule for summer, and it looks really different than my one for the school year does, because Kaysen's home, Jay's hours are different. And so one thing I also did moving into the summer is brainstorm a list of some things I wanted to get done and some things I wanted us to do as a family. So I don't know if you're anything like me, but especially as a teacher, every summer I start out with these really lofty goals, and I get to the end of the summer and it's like, where did summer go? And I'm sure this year will not be any different, but I didn't set a few projects, and so I actually built time in my ideal schedule where I'm working on those projects a little bit at a time, and I had added some daily goals as well. I will admit to you that I am a terrible housekeeper. I do not enjoy cleaning. I do a terrible job of it, and so I have some time built in each day, just so I can stay on top of what do you do you brain dump. What kinds of things, Allison? Basically everything that needs to be done. So anything that needs to be done at my house, anything that needs to be done for my family, if Jay needs cleaning picked up, if I need to get to the grocery store, if I need to make a call to someone, if I need to get online and register someone for something, anything that needs to be done. And like I mentioned, the nice part of that is it just takes it out of my head and gets it into one place. So instead of me having 3 different to-do lists around the house, or thinking at some point like, oh, I need to add that, I just get it down. And I do add to that brain dump as the week goes on. And that's actually what I was going to say next. I hope I answered your question. If not, ask that again. And so I start on Monday and I do this massive brain dump of everything I want to get done that week. And then each day, so I spend a little extra time on Monday because that's the day that I do like my full brain dump, and I read my life plan before I do my planning of my day. But Tuesday through Sunday are super quick. Like I will tell you honestly, I spend 3 to 5 minutes doing this process because the brain dump's already done. So I might add 1 or 2 things from it. I might cross something off. But I'm not reading my full life plan every day. I mean, I'm just sitting down and filling in any appointments or anything that has to be done at a certain time that day, filling in my my ideal schedule, and I'm done. So it's all there ready to go. And, I just and I use it as a guide. I mentioned that I don't worry if I'm off schedule or, that I'm jumping around a little bit. It's really just a guide for me. So I hope I answered that question for you. I want to talk a little bit more about life planning and introduce you a little bit to the Intentional Living Academy. What I'm sharing tonight is 1 day of the month-long Intentional Living Academy. So this actual brain dump and the scheduling, the planning of your day, and the ideal schedule is 1 day of what we will do. So to give you a little bit of an idea of what the life planning is basically it's looking at the different areas of your life and figuring out what's important to you, which ones. Everyone in the Intentional Living Academy I just wrapped up, everyone had different life accounts that we were working on. So some of ours overlapped. We had the same ones in common, but there's no right or wrong answer. And that's the nice part, is that you can take this any direction you want to take it. Basically what you're doing, and we do an assessment, we do several exercises to get to the point of, okay, which life accounts are most important to you and which ones do you want to work on most? So I'm going to run through those and I want you to listen to them and really identify 3 or 4 areas of your life that you want to be more intentional and purposeful. And I'm going to encourage you as you do that, if you have a pen and paper, jot those down. And then when you do this ideal schedule or when you look at your day tomorrow, make sure you're doing something in those areas to move you forward. So the ones that we look at in the Intentional Living Academy is our spiritual life, marriage, parenting, health, finances, your career, self-development or self-care, which basically just means taking better care of yourself, taking better care of you, social life, and hobbies. And so those are the ones that we include. They're included in the assessment that we'll do and that we'll look at, but not everyone will go with all of those. So you pick and choose which direction you're going to take it, and we go from there. So then we move into basically writing our life plans, and I break that down. That sounds like a really daunting process, but the awesome part of a life plan is it's not just goal setting. Like, we're actually looking at where do we want to go. There's a great quote, and I'm going to misquote it, but basically, if you don't know where you want to go, you can take any road to get there. But if you know where you want to go, if you know the marriage that you want to have, then you need to strategically do some things to get you there. If you know what you want to do as a parent, the difference that you want to make in your kid's life, then you can look at what do I need to do to get there. This time around, when I just took this last group through the Intentional Living Academy, I added home as one of my life accounts in my life plan because, as I mentioned, it's something that I really struggle with, and it significantly impacts my family and just the feel in our house. I mean, when it's somewhat picked up, and I will not tell you that it's clean, but when I've done a little bit of work just to take care of the stuff that needs to be taken care of, our house is so much more peaceful. And so that's something that I added in this time around to work on, because it's just something, frankly, that I needed to work on. So I am going to share with you, and as I kind of talk through this next part of what's included in the Intentional Living Academy, I'm going to share with you a link that you can go to and get more information. So that is there. But basically what the Intentional Living Academy is it's in a private Facebook group. I will share an assignment, a training, something to do every day of the week. So you'll have an assignment Monday through Friday, and I try to keep that between about 10 to 30, 15 to 30 minutes a day. Days are different, but knowing that some days you're not going to have that amount of time, I give you the weekends to catch up. So I do want everyone kind of to stay with us. The awesome part of going through this with a group is having community support and people that are doing this process together and can bounce ideas off each other. And like I mentioned earlier in the call, the accountability of knowing you have to answer for those assignments to keep you moving through it and to stay on track with it. So the first 2 weeks, we go through the assessment and some activities that lead up to the actual life plan writing. Then I'll walk you through what you do to life plan, and I break that down into small chunks to make it really manageable. And then the second half of it is really putting it into practice. Like I mentioned, if you don't do anything with it, it's just like a glorified list of goals. So looking at what are we actually going to do with this so that it makes a difference in your life. Sorry, let me get this real quick. And just being a like I mentioned, also just that a good steward of the life the Lord's given you. So looking at the directions you feel called to do. And I'll be very honest with you, when I first started, I was doing some of these pieces. I had an ideal schedule last year. I didn't call it that, but when I was home from teaching for a year, and I followed it somewhat, but I will tell you, this life plan piece, adding it in has made all the difference in just my intentionality and doing the things that matter most, not just doing and being busy, but doing the things that matter most. So this program will include, the cost of it will include the book that you need to go through the process, which is Michael Hyatt's Living Forward. And that's the book that we'll use about the first half of it, of the academy. I've got some extras that are in addition to that, but that's what we'll start with, and I will buy your book for you. Templates, so for the life planning, I'll share with you the assessment, and everything. I'll provide templates for everything that we need to do as we go through. Resources to support the implementation of your life plan. So I've got a huge list of resources that you can look in the areas that you're working on and find those things. 2 online group calls where we'll do trainings as a group, and again, that's really fun to go together through it together as a group. 1 individual consult call, and we'll do that after you've written your life plan, and we can talk more in depth about yours specifically and where you want to go. I just had one of those calls today. The lady was in my last academy was having a hard time getting it wrapped up, and it was such an awesome call just to talk through her life plan and her excitement. And she wants everyone she knows to go through this process because it's just made such a big difference. And so it was really exciting to hear that from her. As I mentioned, you'll have the Facebook community group, and each day of the week we'll have those daily deliverables, assignments, or content videos. So I have quite a few videos in there doing quick trainings on things. An adult coloring book. We do have a little coloring contest one weekend. And then you'll finish the program with your written life plan and have everything that you need to work that out. So as a result, I truly, truly, truly believe that you'll have a clearer sense of direction, that you'll develop the habits that you need to support those priorities, and that you'll be living a more intentional and purposeful, productive life as a result of this. I firmly believe that, so much so that I'm offering a money-back guarantee, that if you go through the program and you do the activities, you do the assignments, and you get to the end and just don't feel like it was worth it, I will give you your money back. Typically, this program is $97. It's a 4-week program and includes everything I just went through. But I'm actually through tomorrow at this time. I'm offering an early bird special for only $70. And so to do that, you'll want to go to the link that I shared, michellehite.org, and it's the Intentional Living Academy link. And click that Buy Now button. And if you do get signed up, I will get in contact with you and we'll get your book shipped to you. We are going to be starting next Monday, so 1 week from today. And so, as I mentioned, I'll be in touch. I do want to share with you a few things that were shared from the ladies in my last group. One of them said, "I'm so glad you're doing this. I needed this so much in my life. It's made such a difference." Someone else shared, "All of it was helpful, but I loved," in all caps, "all of the productivity tips and tricks." And that's something we do toward the end once we have our life plan and we're kind of living it out. I share a lot of productivity tips and tricks and time wasters and time hacks, like time savers. Getting my life in order is something that has been at the top of my list for a while, and this course was super helpful. Someone else said, "Writing my purpose and envision future and the daily goal setting was the most helpful." Someone else said, "Creating a mindset of beginning with the end in mind, creating a life plan and a schedule that I can follow." So I want to invite you to join me. I do have limited space in this next one, and so I will be filling spots until they are full. We will start a week from Monday, and if you have any questions, please reach out to me. You can contact me at michellehite.org, and there's a contact button there, or you can email me at michelledhite, Hight, @gmail.com. And I would love to talk more in depth if you have additional questions that we can talk about. And so if there are no other questions, I'll hang around for just a minute if you have something you want to ask now. But otherwise, I would love to hear how this process of brain dumping and scheduling and using an ideal schedule helps you to be more productive. And really, my prayer for you is just that you be more productive at the things that matter most. We're always going to be busy, but we don't want to be busy just being busy for the sake of being busy. But we want to be busy doing the things that matter and make a difference in our life and in the lives of those in our circle of influence. So I hope that you have a blessed evening. I will stick around here for just a second if you have any questions, and we'll talk soon. Bye.